Chicka, yeah.
You're a fucking idiot. Okay.
How you doing, brother?
Oh, God.
Thanks for showing up, brother.
You know, I actually work right over there. So, yes. Thank you for showing up. So, welcome to another episode of Bros Banter. This episode is going to be a little bit more serious, but without, like our media content manager said, without being off-brand of who we are. It's a little bit more serious today. I think we want to talk about a situation that keeps evolving, and we just have to follow the news. Some people would call it the war in Ukraine. Some people would call it the invasion of Ukraine. What would you call it?
You know what? It's tough because what you're just pointing out is that headlines is actually what people are looking at. Like if you trade the markets, like again, I keep telling you guys, I trade the stock market, I trade the index and the futures on the index. And throughout the whole week, it's been like a roller coaster. But it's been the roller coaster because of headlines. Because is it an invasion? One day, Russia invades Ukraine. The other day is Russia retaliates against rebels. So it's really hard to get your bearings on what actually is happening in Ukraine. And you know what? Legitimately, if you live in North America and you're watching the news, you're pretty much thinking it's an invasion, full-blown invasion. But truth of the matter is, if you're in Europe or you're a neighboring country there, it's probably not an invasion. It's probably, you know what? I would even say maybe, sadly, and again, war is never a funny matter. It's never something that should be taken lightly. But this could be actually what it is, which is Russia retaliating against rebel forces. I mean, it's tough. We're not there. We don't have boots on the ground. We're taking words of journalists, people that are there. I mean, it's actually funny. If you watch the news, by the way, sometimes they even say, oh, the footage we got is not actual footage from there, which is scary because then you're seeing online, you're seeing a picture of a plane bombing something, but it's actually from 2014.
It's like a stock footage that they have, and they're using, the news is actually using stock footage.
You'll see this on Facebook or on Instagram, and then it'll get picked up by the news. But it's actually based off of non-credible sources, and it's stock footage. Crazy, right?
Well, yeah, it's crazy, and it's a very sick topic because we're sitting back in our comfy life, shitty weather Montreal, or wonderful weather in the United States if you're down south, like I'd like to be. And we're sitting back and looking at this through the boob tube. It's because honestly,
through our screens.
Alternate media doesn't really do at the moment. We're still dependent on classical news, like CNN, CNBC, CBC, Fox News, which we all know they have an agenda.
They all do.
And we have to, all of a sudden, because they're saying in a stern Wolf Blitzer voice, it's serious, we have to forget they have an agenda. We have to forget about everything and just take what they're saying as credible sources. And I just want to be clear, I am not at all saying that there is not an invasion, there are not Russian forces in Ukraine. I am just saying that the news that I'm seeing is conflictual. I find it conflictual because I don't even trust some of the news sources.
Again, what people have to realize is whether they're trading or they're just regular standard viewers of the news, is whatever outlet you're looking at is pushing a narrative, and it's pushing its agenda through that narrative. Now
we are pushing a narrative.
That's it.
We're pushing an agenda.
Like we're trying to be unbiased, but at the end of the day, there's always, and I can't stress this enough. I say it all the time. There are no heroes in this world. Everybody is always out to do something for their own reasons. And it's no different for countries, whether it be Russia, whether it be the US, whether it even be NATO themselves. Everyone has an agenda. And to believe that when I'm watching the news, that the US is actually doing things out of the kindness of their heart for the Ukrainian people, I wish it was. I wish. But that's just not the case. So that's why when you're watching the news or when you're talking about an event like this, which is so heartbreaking because actual people are dying, what I think makes me more angry as well, it's that I know that people are working towards their own interest in these things. And that's what makes me angry. Because trust me, when the US is slapping sanctions, because that's what's been moving the market, by the way, guys. Russia, headline, Russia invades Ukraine. Market tanks. Why is it tanking? Because fear, war, uncertainty. But then, US president slaps Russia with sanctions, tariffs. Yeah. Oh my God, they're going to make Russian lives harder. Will they really? That's another portion where we'll get to. But at the end of the day, market goes up on that news. And again, to me, it's who's benefiting from this? And are these sanctions really hard enough for Putin to go like, oh my God, please, let's not do this? I mean, I hate it, but I get a feeling that we're seeing political theater in front of our own eyes, whether it be from one side to the other, and it's hard to grasp. Other than people dying, who's the culprit here? Who's working for what? What do they want?
Yeah, because that's the truth. It's what do they want? And, the political theater is so thick. It's so palpable because, let's be honest, Ukraine, massive natural resources, natural gas, like they've got massive deposits of natural gas. I see this as a classic play, and history is laden with all these classic plays of countries trying to go into other countries to grab resources. Now, of course, there's also the angle that Ukraine was part of the USSR, and the USSR fell, 1990? So it's not that far away. And the current man in Russia is a product of the USSR. So he's just not even seeing it as an invasion, probably. He's saying, like, I am claiming what was ours to begin with. I am rebuilding my glory days.
By the way that Putin probably sees this is he probably doesn't even consider them Ukrainians. He probably thinks that they're Russians. And historically, he wouldn't be wrong to think that they're Russians. And that's why we have these rebel forces that have been causing trouble. Let's call them terrorist factions that are pro-Russia. I mean, in theory, that's the thing. I mean, in Putin's head, this is Russia.
It's a civil war.
That's it. It's Russia. I want to make it nice. I want to make it clean. I want to bring it back to what it was in the 90s. I want to clean back all these pieces of the USSR that disbanded. Why? Because Russia, when it was one, was a little bit stronger. That's in his mind.
Yeah. And whether he's right or wrong, it doesn't really matter because he's still doing it.
That's it.
And what are we doing? We're doing like the past. We're doing the same things as the past. Like, did World War II, did like the Allied forces really do anything when the Germans rolled their tanks into Poland or rolled their tanks into Belgium? They only started really doing something when Paris was invaded and when bombs were going off over London. Oh, it's my stuff now, and we're the big boys. We have to deal with it now because it's coming over. And some people can stipulate that, the Americans really got into it because at a certain point they were afraid that, they would just hop over into the United States and North America. So right now, sanctions are the ways that they're doing this, but they're not really saying we're there. We're gonna invest ourselves in this position.
So it's tough for Joe Biden right now. He's in a bind. Now, Joe has to save face. And he has to say, we're America. We won't tolerate invasions of countries. And we won't tolerate casualties. But he's got to think.
I just want to stop you one moment. We won't tolerate invasions of countries except when we invade Iraq and Afghanistan. And, when we don't tolerate other
Bring
people.
democracy to the world.
Oh, that's the thing.
We're gonna
Bring democracy.
What was it that W said? We're gonna. He didn't say we're gonna bring democracy to the Middle East, but it's pretty much what.
We're gonna make the Middle East free.
Yeah,
We're gonna give them the right to choose their government,
and they didn't.
and we're gonna totally take the oil and take whatever we can while we're there, but we're gonna leave troops.
But they
and
didn't.
army.
That's it. We're gonna leave troops there for almost 20 years.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah, and then we're gonna pull out and leave all of this material for the new regime, because there's a new regime. Because the new regime that we came and we brought, nobody gave a fuck about. Couldn't even stand on its own. So we're pulling out. We're leaving all these weapons to the new regime. But
we're leaving with the good Talibans, because apparently these Talibans are not the old Talibans.
Yeah.
They're new Talibans, and they're all for better communication.
they're kicking us out.
Yes.
But we're leaving on our again, political theater. And this is why Joe's in a tough spot right now.
Did you say he was in a bind? Are
Yeah.
you saying that Biden is in a bind?
Yes. So
Horrible pun.
But this is where it gets pretty stupid. So NATO's and this is the thing. So Russia's made it abundantly clear. Putin's made it abundantly clear a few weeks ago, actually years ago. NATO, stop expanding. The way he sees it, the way he looks at the map, he sees USSR the way it was. And he's seeing NATO getting closer and trying to take pieces away, which are already independent countries. But he has a problem with them joining NATO because it goes against his vision. Now, is his vision the right vision? I'm not the one to judge on that. But all I'm saying is that, in theory, NATO is not supposed to expand. The U.S. is not supposed to expand on their agenda through NATO. But they're doing it. They've done it, and this is where Putin gets pissed. And he says, no, Ukraine's not joining. You guys are saying Ukraine's not ready. I'm saying Ukraine's not joining. Here are my terms. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And that's what's going to happen. They said, crazy. Russia, you crazy? Putin, you're crazy? We're not gonna say yes to that. He said, okay, fine. I told you guys. I'm warning you guys. I might take actions because there's civil unrest there. There's fellow Russians there that are under fire. You guys don't want to do anything. I'm going to do something.
And we're talking about a guy that has a long history of doing stuff. Like, I think first couple of years he was in power, there was a terrorist, hard to tell. There was a terrorist hostage situation, and he just decided to gas the whole place. It was just like, no, throwing the gas bombs, and that's how we do it. That's how we do it in Russia. It's we take action.
Make no mistake, this guy is not a slouch. So this guy was unemployed when he got into politics. He was an ex-KGB spy, 10 years in action, unemployed, gets into politics. One of his teachers, actually, one of the guys that taught him, I think politics, and Putin gets into obviously politics through him, and he obviously comes clean with all of Russia. I was a KGB agent because he wanted to be very transparent. But the way that he rose to power, I mean, this guy had experience as a spy. He brings it. He gets. Russia was a dirty place in the 90s. It was crime lords, crime bosses.
Well, that's the thing. People it goes back to the current situation. Russians right now, like the history of Russia that most of us, like I included, don't know of it very well, but at the fall of the USSR,
it was dirty.
It was the perestroika. It was anybody can get their hands on anything. Survival was the name of the game. You almost had a civil war happening when nobody was reporting it, because who the fuck gives a shit about Russia? And where rubles didn't mean nothing, but the currency that meant something was the US dollar. It was like all-out war on the street. Poverty was so bad. Meanwhile, back in the good old North America, we beat the commies. It's the glory days. Cold War's ended. So we've gotten, like, if we want to look at it, the Occidental leaders, they got fat and lazy on peace. Like, oh yeah, skirmishes in Afghanistan, skirmishes in Iraq, invading Iraq, this and that. That's not the same caliber of what was happening before. So is there an appetite to go to war? I don't think so.
I don't think so. But I do think that Putin's made it abundantly clear.
He will.
He will, and he wants things to be clean. I mean, I think this is this guy's motto. He brings his agenda, and he likes to clean things up for them to fit his agenda. And we can't say that it hasn't worked. It has worked. He's cleaned up Russia. He's made it one of the world's, people say Russian economy. Listen, it's the 6th largest economy in the world. Let's not kid ourselves. And if they can take these sanctions, it's because they're ready. It's because they're sitting on all these natural resources.
3rd largest producer of oil in the world.
There you go. There you go. So, by the way, through these sanctions, where's China in all this? Where's my buddy Xi? He's still doing business with Russia.
Bro, he's busy cleaning up the post-Olympics. There's a lot of things to do.
That's the thing. Sanctions don't mean anything because Russia has already been shifting towards China.
Well, they've been like, anybody that thinks that this was like Putin one day got out of bed saying, you know what? Fuck Ukraine. I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to settle the matter. I woke up. I had my pack of smokes. I drank my Russian coffee. I'm out there. I'm going to go kick some fucking Ukrainian ass and take what was ours back. No, man. He's been planning this for years. Oh, swift sanctions. People won't be able to move money out of Russia. You think Putin told all of his buddy oligarchs, it's a big shock? No, these guys have been moving their money. Like, honestly, do you think they really kept all their money in Russia? These are billionaires.
They've known for a while. And the other thing here that you've actually touched on is that, like, listen, let's be honest here. So now people are saying, well, Belarus should get sanctions too, because in a way, they're not against what Russia's doing, and they're actually, helping Russia with its borders. But listen, does Putin actually need to invade? So all he needs to do is, and this is what I believe is going to happen. I think he's marching in there. He's going to calm things down, and he's going to pull out. He's going to keep the 2 independent parts of Ukraine that were actually already saying, we want to be independent. He's going to absorb them in Russia. So Russia's going to grow a little bit. And he's going to put a new government regime in Ukraine. Same as he did in Belarus. And now he's going to have 2 of his buddies that'll be prime ministers. So you got one in Belarus and the prime minister of Ukraine. But in fact, they'll actually be governors, because the real guy in charge will be Putin. And that's how he operates. And this guy's sly. He's a spy. I think he knows what his limits are. I think he knows not to go too far with the West. But at the same time, the West is kind of tied up, because if the sanctions get too bad, who's suffering? Who needs natural gas? So Germany, privately, with private funds, built Nord Stream 2, which is a natural gas pipeline direct to Germany that helps them for heat. Now you're telling me, now they stopped. Let's not complete it. But by the way, this is the second pipeline. It's not the first. It's the second. So the first is still operating. Business as usual. But the second one, do you think all these neighboring countries that need that resource from Russia, the U.S. knows the sanctions, they can't be too bad, because or else they're going to piss off, or they're actually going to harm their allies in NATO. Free trade is not totally free.
Yeah. And there's all the other countries, like, all the Scandinavian countries, they still need these resources. So everybody's going to come to the bargaining table. We're not dealing with a Hitler-esque or a Kim Jong-un, which is not really a Hitler type. You know, we're not dealing with a madman. We're dealing with a sly fox that knows that up to where he can push the envelope. He understands that there will be casualties. But by the way, here's the unpopular truth: is when you're ruling a country, because that's what he's doing. He's ruling a country. He can call himself president or prime minister or whatever in Russia, but you know, he's ruling the country. He understands the concept of collateral damage and casualties. He doesn't like it. Nobody likes that. But at the same time, he's looking at the big picture. And the big picture, he's got to secure the future for Russia. And that is his gambit. And he knows full well that the West, the Occidental countries, they're not going to come in. And if he really wanted to take over, do you think he would just go with little skirmishes? No, he would have rolled down the tanks, put on all the might, and would have been, boom, okay, all of Ukraine is ours.
Yeah, and what about America selling 86 million, or it could be even more than that, dollars worth of weapons to Ukraine so that civilians can arm themselves and actually fight against Russia? Now, I'm not saying that again, I'm not picking a side, but I'm saying, what's America getting involved with? I mean, why are you supplying Russia with all these weapons if you're not pushing some sort of agenda?
Why are you supplying Ukraine with all these weapons?
I mean, yeah, why are you supplying Ukraine with all these weapons?
Because, you know what? I'm going to be a little bit conspiracy theory here. The Cold War was a good time for the military complex in the U.S. It was a good time. And you know what? Nobody wants to say it, but it was. A lot of our actual current technological advancements, like the cell phones, like all these means of communications, all these things were developed during wartime. You know, here's a stupid example. Microwaves. You know why microwaves were created? As a means to cook food in submarines, because guess what? You can't cook food in a submarine if you're using ovens, smoke. So somebody came up with the idea of, let's make microwaves. Let's cook food with microwaves. Yeah. That happened during, that's military industrial complex going like, okay, we're using technology and we're adapting. You know the function we like in all cars? Like now we don't even have to use our key. It's a push button. That was invented in the 90s. That was in most of military vehicles to start the engine. Why? Because when somebody's shooting at you, it ain't time to be fumbling for your keys. You get in, you put on, you do it like today. Put the foot on the gas, press the button, and go. So technology and the military, complex, industrial complex, are hand to hand. And right now, peacetime is never a good time for these for the ironmongers because they get their funds tapped out. Now this, we're gonna help the rebels. We're gonna bring freedom. We're gonna make this way. Okay, but we can't. But we're not gonna actually engage. Like right now, I guarantee you, right now there's some fucking CIA spooks training all these rebels like they did in Afghanistan when the Russians were in Afghanistan, which, by the way, ended up becoming the Taliban. But no, Al-Qaeda.
Yeah. Again, history has a funny way of repeating themselves. But you touched on something funny. So if we're talking about history, so the U.S. was pissed off at Russia for putting missiles in Cuba. Essentially, the Cuban crisis. Russia is pissed off that NATO's expanding, but meanwhile, America is putting weapons and missiles in Ukraine. Pretty funny, though. Like, I mean, where the U.S. was pissed, Russia's supposed to just stand by, be like, yeah, that's cool. You want to put missiles and tanks in a bordering country that I'm currently having issues with terrorists? I don't want to say he's supposed to go to war, but how is that not an act of betrayal by NATO? Again, it's everybody has their agenda. There are no heroes in this world.
And there are no heroes, and there's only casualties and victims, and we get to watch them on the news, and hopefully we get to watch some of it, some of the true footage, some now stock footage. But it's like the issues are never as clear as they're presented. Everybody's got their game plan. Like, who's profiting? Let's bring it back down to the market. Who's profiting right now? I don't know. Anybody that's in
Boeing,
Lockheed
Martin.
Yeah, anything that has to do with military functions. Raytheon.
Yeah.
Guidance manufacturers for chips for guidance systems.
Who's buying these products? It could be NATO. NATO does own military weapons. It could be the bordering countries. It could be, war.
Steel. Hell, you need to make like anything that's construction related to these types of armament. Their value just shot up. It's like, hey, look, natural resources. It's so like the game's there.
Yeah, and that's why when we started the podcast today, I said the markets have been nuts because the headlines are all over the place, and you do not want to trade on headlines because 1 minute it's one thing and the other minute it's something. There's a reason, by the way, if you Google and you write Ukraine-Russia news, you'll probably get the Wall Street Journal. And you could get live, up-to-the-minute updates. And they're constantly updating these headlines. This is what moves the market. Paranoia, fear, any headline that triggers human emotion will influence the stock market, will influence what buyers or sellers are doing. And it's like surfing. Try to catch a wave when it's like a storm. You won't be able to time it right. You may once or twice, but you'll get fucked more often than you'll make. And that's why you don't trade off headlines. That's why if you're a smart trader, and I'm not saying I'm a smart trader, by the way, because I am trying to tame this storm, but it's not working. Let's be honest, it's not working. I've been fucked this week because I'm trying to catch an impossible wave to catch. I can't time it. I can't swim as quick as these headlines are coming out. And again, even though I might think that these headlines are completely bogus, don't make sense, all that matters is how the market interprets it. And currently, the market is all over the place.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous, and it's just like when there's too much news, it's like too much news, and people are like, "What do you mean? Oh, I'm getting up to date. Half of it is bullshit. Half of it is a rehashing of what was said 5 minutes ago. Half of it is another take on the same news that was done 5 minutes ago. It's like, oh, okay. Mr. Biden, yesterday we were waiting for Joe to talk.
Sleepy Joe.
What did he say? Anything actually poignant? No, he rehashed a news cycle, pretty much. They were like, every potentially news channel talking head was already telling me just about what Biden was saying. And he kind of did exactly say what they were going to say. We expect this from the president. And he came out and he said, and
exactly what was expected.
Exactly. So you're going like, oh, but president speaks.
And did you see this, though? This was pretty funny. So I saw Joe and one of the reporters from Fox actually, the minute that sort of like the interview portion's finished, he says, do you actually, I can't remember the question was, but it was something about, do you think Russia's actually scared of you, Mr. President? And Joe couldn't answer. He was there. He looked down, up. Then he starts picking at his teeth. I mean, again, is this a man is this the right guy for the job? I mean, it's, and again, now that's being taken out of context. Applied to the next elections. Is Joe Biden a strong guy or not? What would have Trump done? I even saw another article come out yesterday night where, what does it say? It was president's doctor or the medical staff thinks that Joe Biden is medically unfit currently. Again, all of this serves a purpose.
Oh, it serves like, and honestly, that was such a stupid question because, and I'm not, you know what, I don't, you know, I'm not American, so I'm going to be completely non-biased. I don't give a shit if it's Joe. I personally don't like Trump because he's so big noise and little content. But to ask that question, you think Russia or Vladimir Putin's afraid of you? What is this? Is this like Rocky IV? Like, are you propping fucking Joe and Vlad? They're gonna beat.
Stallone would do a better job.
Yeah, well, Ivan Drago, you know, like Dolph Lundgren would do a great job. Do a better job. But I mean, like, honestly, that's like this child. That's a childish question. Like, what you think? Even if it was The Rock that was president of the United States, and so he said, "Do you think Vladimir Putin's going to be afraid of you, President Dwayne Johnson?" Yeah. The Rock's all fucking 6 foot, God knows how big, weigh 350 pounds, fucking lifts busts for a living. Actually, probably can wrestle a bear, a real bear. It's still a stupid question. This is not like one-on-one confrontation. These are countries, political reality, trading agreements. Like, it's complex, and I got to love the sheer stupidity of boiling it down into a spoon-fed question. You think he's afraid of you? I'm not sure that Joe Biden's wife is afraid of Joe Biden.
You know what? It's, again, like I said, no heroes. Everybody's working their own agenda, whether it's Fox News, whether it's CNN, whether it's CNBC, whether it's any network in the world. Al Jazeera. Everybody has a goal. Now, one network goal could be to embarrass Joe Biden. Another network's goal could be to demonize Vladimir Putin. And again, what's to say what's right or wrong? At the end of the day,
Doesn't matter.
People are dying. That's all that matters. People are dying. War is bad. Nobody wins in war. Well, not even, let's not go there.
Profits are being made.
Yeah, profits are being made. But war's no good for business. Oh, fuck, I can't say that.
You can't say war is no good for business.
So let's
for
just
an
say,
example, because let me show you one example of why war is amazing for business. Right now, there is a potential, a crazy potential, to bring out the United States, North America, out of the foreseeable biggest recession since the last one, and the highest inflation rates since the last 30 or plus years, by a war. Do that, man, everything starts booming again. Protectionism comes in, buy America, and America. If they decide to enact that and be like, let's go back to like FDR with the New Deal, and we're going to supply Ukraine with tons of material. We're going to go to war, man. That could revive a spiraling down economy like that.
Nobody's talking rate cuts anymore. I mean, rate hikes. Nobody's talking about that. Why? Because market's already pricing in this sort of war, or maybe not a war in the market. And suddenly the Fed is going like, hey, nobody's looking at us right now. Rate what? Rate hike? What's that? Like, we'll get back to that eventually, but they're saying like, oh, nice, I can breathe right now. Nobody's looking at me. Market's doing whatever market's doing. We'll be there if it counts. But again, like you said, that's the other thing that's crazy about war is we're all there watching on our TVs. We're watching one thing. You know, it's that famous one hand's doing the one thing and the other hand's doing something else.
Kansas City Shuffle, man.
It's the same thing.
Everybody looks right, you go left. That's what's happening. And at a certain point, a lot of companies are going left. A lot of companies are doing things that we're not paying attention because we're looking at the puppet show.
Low key posted this week on the Invercio platform. Joe Biden, through the infrastructure bill that he pushed to, I think a few weeks ago, 8.3 billion, or a little over 8 point something billion, in companies that are looking for minerals inside the country. Because throughout all of this, countries are seeing what's going on. They're like, you know what? Something might happen somewhere in the world. Could be China, could be Russia, could be anywhere. We got to start being a little bit more dependent on ourselves. So let's put money into our junior exploration sector in the U.S. Let's throw some money in a bunch of these companies because we need to find these minerals. We need to keep them at home. We need to make sure that we're not reliant on all these other countries.
Let's talk. I just want to talk about one thing. Well, many things that we've talked about, but one thing that I like that nobody's also mentioning. Let's talk about all the little fuckers out there that are using this as an excuse to explain either what's happened or what will happen. Like what I heard. I love oil and gas. I think it's fascinating. So I've heard experts fucking work for banks. Never trust a bank expert. He's always playing his own book. He's almost worse than a political attaché. He's playing exactly what the bank wants to say. A talking head with a nice name and a PhD, and always wearing a really, really nice suit that I personally can't afford. But goes, oh well, we'll be expecting an increase in the price of oil, which will reverberate into the price at the pump. Nice. Motherfucker, you're telling me you're going to increase the price of gas again because Russia? Fuck you. Fuck you. That's all I got to say to you. Fuck you. You are using an excuse to explain an excuse to justify greed.
Hey, if Russia, so when the pandemic started, Russia opened the floodgates on oil production. Price of oil tanked. It went as low as $13 a barrel. Crazy, because they were mass producing. Hey, you know what? We'll produce, because they wanted to send the message. Price of the pump was super cheap, under $1 everywhere in the world. But now, who lost in all that? The big oil producers.
Yeah.
Canadian, American, they all lost through that. So suddenly, we got to go green. Suddenly, there are wars happening. Russia, one of the biggest suppliers in the world, second or third. We got to jack up our prices. Really? Really? Canada is self-sufficient. U.S. is self-sufficient. I mean, you think, what is it, Arabie Saoudite?
Oh, OPEC is fucking self-sufficient. Like, honestly, if they ever wanted to, here's the funny thing that people don't realize, but when it comes to OPEC, which is pretty much a cartel, decide, like, they produce oil. They still make money at $19 a barrel. And you know why? Because they got so much of it. And you know why they're happy when somebody raises the price of oil? Is because they live in goddamn deserts. You know what you can't eat to survive? You can't fucking eat sand.
Cha-ching, man. You're making bank.
Right.
That's
now,
what they're doing. They're making bank.
They get to import all the crazy groceries, all the food. They can invest in terraforming. They could do all sorts of shit because they have a commodity that we're so dependent, and they're happy if it goes up. And they're willing to teach people a lesson. So if Russia starts being dicks, OPEC can turn around and be like, oh, you want to go in the pricing war? No problem. I'm going to fucking drop it down so hard on you because, motherfucker, I can't eat sand.
And by the way, that's great. So imagine Russia decides to just pump out the oil. Let's drop the price worldwide. How do you think that looks for Americans or Canadians? We'll be like, oh my God, gas is so cheap. We'll actually be happy, by the way, by these new gas prices. The oil producers will be pissed because they're still making money, but they're making a little bit less. We're happy. And then, I mean, Russia could do this. They could.
They can.
And it would somehow promote some sort of a political agenda. There are no heroes in this world.
No.
Everybody's got an angle.
Yeah, there are no white hats. The only people that have white hats are the people that right now are in their houses trying to protect their family in Ukraine. Those are the only ones that have white hats, and they're not giving a fuck about all the things that we're actually talking about, and they're going like, Jesus Christ, let's make it quick.
Whatever happens.
Like, honestly, I don't want to. I'm going to use myself as an example. I'm never going to be, I have a family. I'm never going to be like, rah, rah, rah. Yes, I will go and fight the oppression. Nah, man, I want to protect my family. And if somebody rolled in and had a shitload of fucking guns, I'm not going to be all patriot and be like, I will defend my honor and the honor of my country. No, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm stupidly out fucking gunned. I'm stupidly outmatched.
New landlord.
New landlord. And guess what? Meet the new boss, same as the old fucking boss. He's just got a different agenda, and it's not the middle age. Nobody wants rebellions.
No.
Rebellions is what? Bad for business.
However this ends, I just hope that everyone that's in Ukraine or Russia, they all make the right decisions based on what's the safest course of action. Let's promote people staying safe, doing the right things to stay safe. Let's not go to judgment. I am not behind Ukraine. I'm not behind Russia. I'm behind human lives. And whatever the choice may be, do what you have to survive and take care of your family, and don't seek out violence.
Yeah, absolutely. Check your fucking political questions, your political ambitions, your fucking political opinions at the door as soon as you're talking about human lives. And realize, like Louis been saying all throughout this podcast, there are no heroes here. There are only big guys deciding that they have their ambitions and views, and they're making it happen. So if you're not a big guy and you're not in that, and you have no reason to get in that fight, don't get in that fight, and do yourself a favor. If you want to give money, you want to send money, send it to Red Cross, send it to anything that's already geared towards that, and don't go spouting some bullshit patriotic crap, saying like, yeah, we're gonna go there and help them get their freedom. No, don't be an asshat.
On that, guys, thanks for the podcast today. Chicka, yeah.
And honestly, if you listen to us on Anchor, give us comments. Tell us if you like it. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook,
Rumble, YouTube,
and also on our platform, Invercio.com. Give us some heads up. Give us some comment. Tell us what you think. We are not about judging.
No.
We're all about sharing knowledge and wealth, and the wealth of knowledge. So thank you very much, and take care, guys.
Ask questions, guys, anytime. We'll see you next time.
Ciao.